This is today we are speaking. We have an unusual guest. Let's learn how to be courageous. Let's learn how to be hardworking. Let's learn how to overcome unovercomable, unusual challenges and issues in life. Ashley, could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
Hello, my name is Ashley Olson, and I started my business in 2006. It's called wheelchairtraveling.com. It's basically an online resource to help any and everybody with limited mobility, their friends and family, be able to plan travel, whether it's adventure travel or traveling with a family or groups or tours or backpacking around. There are lots of different options. Like I said, I started in 2006 because I myself use a wheelchair, and I wanted to know, okay, what can I still see and do in this world? How can I make that possible? And when I would talk to people like hotels or visitor centers or ranger stations, I may get some information, or I may get partial information, or I may not get any information at all because people are afraid or just don't know what to say. So I wanted to start a website, kind of, to start documenting where I would travel to one, help others just like me be able to explore and see a destination, but two, also just to start a database. So if I ever wanted to go back to a destination too, let's say Lake Tahoe or Egypt, I can say, okay, well, what was that one trail, or what was that tour company I used, or what was that hotel I stayed at? I don't have to remember, 7-10 years ago. I can just jump on the website, be like, oh yeah, this is the trail that I wanted to go to. And oh yeah, since I already went to that trail, maybe I can explore something else. And the whole idea was because, um, you know, I wanted to go out and see the world. I'm super adventurous. I love to travel. There's so much importance with traveling and experience new cultures, for other cultures, for your self growth, for humanity in general, progress in as a whole. But I really wanted to open it up to the whole world because I knew myself that I wasn't going to be able to stay at every single hotel and go to every trail and go to every single country in the world, even though I would really like to. So I wanted to open up the floor so any and everybody could share their information as well. So from the beginning, I wanted to have my website be able to have other writers with different perspectives, with different interests, with different abilities or disabilities, to write about their experience and how they maybe overcame obstacles, or what resources did they use, or how they made something possible. Some people use power chairs, some people have walkers, some people can walk a little bit, some people can stand, some people can not stand. There's just such a wide range of what we're willing to, put up with, or deal with and adapt to, and just things that maybe we just can't, or we're just not comfortable with adapting, or we just don't want to. It's not in our wheelhouse. So I wanted people to be able to come to the site, let's say, just me as myself, one individual. I wanted to go backpacking around the United States. Well, I could go to the website and, look at different states and find different hotels and activities and things to do and how I would get around and equipment and car rentals and any and everything. So that would be great. But let's say maybe I'm a family and I want to do, a tour of Ecuador. Well, Ecuador isn't super accessible, so how is that going to work? Well, I've teamed up with tour companies from all around the world who know about access in these countries. They know about, what restaurants are more accessible, or what pathways are the best way to take, to take guests on, to make your experience the most enjoyable as possible for, whoever is on the trip. And there's a plethora of stuff on the site from all around the world. I mean, you're in Cairo. There's actually this amazing company in Egypt that does handicap scuba diving. So just depending on your ability or your disability, however you want to put it, maybe you don't need any assistance once you're in the water, or maybe you need just one person. Maybe you need 4 people to help you scuba diving. Whatever it is, they can adapt to the situation and, one, teach you how to scuba dive, and then actually go into the ocean and have that whole experience. And that's not the only place in the world that actually does that. There's a place in Cozumel, Mexico. There's just so many activities and great things available around the world. It's just a matter of finding them. So again, I wanted to create a platform just to be able to share all of this information so whoever needed it, friends, family, or the individual could plan a trip to, you know, have an experience in
More
a
than
nutshell.
more than interesting. So let's go to the difficult question, Ashley.
Yes.
Yeah, how did you become paralyzed?
I became paralyzed. I was in a car accident with my family. I was 14. It was 2 weeks before my 15th birthday. We were driving from California out to Colorado for a family reunion. And at one point on the way there, we hit a really bad monsoon rainstorm. It was summertime, so it was the summertime monsoon rainstorm, something that I had never experienced. I mean, I was in a tank top and shorts in the desert, ready for my summer vacation. So to be in the car and have it all of a sudden become absolutely black and the rain coming down and lightning striking so close to the car, it was terrifying. It was just, it felt like I was on a completely different planet. I had just crossed into a different dimension pretty much. And at one point, my mom turned around and said, "Girls, I have a bad feeling about this. Make sure you have your seatbelts on." And I said, "Hold on, Mom." I dropped my CD and I unbuckled my seatbelt and I reached to get my CD. And that's when the car hydroplaned. A sheet of water came across the road and the car immediately hydroplaned, started spinning around, and it rolled off the side of the road and down into a ravine. And it was a few hours before anybody found us. And I've driven past the road after the accident, many, many years after the accident. And still to this day, I am just shocked that anybody did see us, because the ravine was so deep and so close to the road that you really had to be, stretching your neck and looking deep into that ravine to see a car. If you're just driving along, looking at the beautiful scenery, the horizon, you wouldn't have seen us. But somebody did, luckily. His name was John. I like to refer to him as Angel John. He came over to the car, saw what the situation was. My dad had already been killed. He died on impact. His neck was snapped in half. And my little sister actually, she woke up after the accident. She was still alive. And she tried to wake my dad up and he slumped over. She heard me crying in the distance, just screaming for help. I don't remember this, but she tried to crawl through broken glass to get to me, but she passed out pretty soon. And then my mom's legs were just completely crushed in the front of the vehicle. I mean, just completely crushed. Her bone went through her legs. She has all sorts of pins and rods and had multiple surgeries on her legs. So when John arrived, he saw the accident and saw that my dad, had already passed. And then, he was getting ready to call for help and helping my mom and my little sister. And he said that he heard a man's voice. It was very clear, very strong, very forceful, who said, "No, like, you need to go over here." And he said he literally felt like he was being pushed in the direction of where I was. And I was completely hidden. I was basically just buried underneath all these shrubs because I was thrown out of the back of the vehicle. My head was split open. So he came over to me and I wasn't breathing. I was all purple and blue and black and whatever. And so he put me over on my side and a bunch of liquid came out and I started breathing again. He called the ambulance or, services, and we were airlifted into a helicopter and flown to the Latter-day Saints Hospital on the border of Utah. And that's where I was for about a month. I was in ICU, shock trauma. I was not conscious for at least like a week and a half or so. I was in a coma per se, or just not really awake at all. I don't remember any of it. Heavily induced on morphine, of course, and I had broken my clavicle, my shoulder, a few ribs. One of my lungs was punctured, the other one had collapsed, and my head was split open, and I had a spinal cord injury. So I woke up in the hospital, and the odd thing is that I kind of knew what had happened. I don't know if it was like the subconscious thing where I would hear people talking and somehow I just kind of knew, something had happened, because when I woke up, I wasn't freaking out and, alarmed where I was. I knew something really extreme had happened, and I knew I couldn't wiggle my toes. I tried wiggling my feet. I knew that was a problem, but the word paralyzed was just not in my vocabulary. That was just not something that my 14-year-old brain, was thinking about. But that's what I was. And I had to do a very long recovery, even to get out of ICU. Of course, my lungs being collapsed, that was incredibly painful process to heal my lungs and to get that just back in order. And it was a long recovery, to learn how to sit up again in bed, learn how to get myself dressed, because you completely lose your whole sense of balance. It's a whole different game. So it was like becoming almost a toddler again, having to have somebody, watch me, like literally watch me to transfer over to a toilet to make sure I didn't fall, just kind of almost like degrading things like that. At that time I was 14, 15, I'm this teenager, like full of life. I was on my way to get a basketball scholarship at Stanford University. I had a scout. That was, I'd been working my whole life for that. So I was very active with my legs and very energetic. And, to be thrown back into the state where I couldn't even get my pants on, or I couldn't even like sit up in bed was definitely, quite traumatic. It was, your life was, you plan for your life and you work so hard and it's going this one direction, and just overnight it can just flip 360 and you have to take a whole new route and adjust and adapt. But I did. I did homeschooling for the first semester, but I graduated on time. I graduated high school with my friends, just like, on time. And I graduated with, a high GPA, and I got a full ride scholarship to the University of Southern California, which is a phenomenal university and incredibly expensive. And because I got a full ride scholarship, I didn't have any school debt, which I am so grateful for, so very, very grateful for, that I have no school debt. And USC was just such an incredible school and just such a good education and growing experience being there on my own, going to a school after the fact with nobody knowing me, like nobody knowing what had happened to me about my accident or anything like that. I was just the girl in a wheelchair. So that was a whole growing experience in college, having to adjust to that. But it was good. I dated boys. I definitely, went through like some psychological like setbacks, from time to time. It wasn't just, peaches and cream and sunshine and rainbows all the time. There was definitely some struggles and, some soul searching and, had to keep going attitude, but I did. And I graduated USC with honors as well. And afterwards, after I graduated, I was working full time at a winery, organizing concerts and weddings and tournaments and all sorts of events. And on the side, I was creating this website, wheelchairtraveling.com. And then one day I was just in a good enough spot where I'm like, okay, let's just try to make this work. And I quit my other job and been going full steam ever since with wheelchairtraveling.com.
Wow. Fantastic, Ashley. So my other question is, what challenges are you still facing until now?
Challenges that I face still to this day, I would say are, other people are my barriers. Where people who, if I run into situations where people are just not willing to adapt and work with me in order to make something accessible, I would say that is the biggest setback for me, because I'm very inventive. I always look at things half full. I know if there's a will, there's a way, and maybe it may not be the right time for something, but eventually, like it can happen. Like possibilities are absolutely everywhere. So when I see an opportunity to go into a store or I see an opportunity to create access somewhere, and I get, people who are, kind of mean about the situation, I would say that is the biggest setback, because I'm like, hey, look, like you can make, you have wood in the back of your store. You could literally just create like a tiny little ramp in the front so people could go into your store, go into your restaurant, and you could get more business. And I mean, some people are over the top, like wonderful, and they're on it, and they're like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. That's such a good idea. I never knew that was going to be possible. And I give them examples, things that I've seen all around the world, in New York, in other countries, in San Francisco, about how to adapt your business in order to make it more accessible for everybody. Because, oftentimes people aren't really traveling or dining alone. Not to say that that never happens. I have no problem doing that whatsoever. But I do love people. I love to be out with my friends and my family, and even meeting new people and so on. And I'm a very social person. And so when we go out, of course, the place has to be accessible. So if you're denying one person access, you're actually kind of denying a whole group of people access into your building. So I love to talk to people about accessibility. I would say that would be the biggest barrier. And more specifically, I would say, because, getting into a restaurant or a store, that's possible. I mean, that to me is like a no-brainer. That without a doubt is 100% possible. Now, making a bathroom wheelchair accessible does have a little bit more thought and requirements involved. But again, there's still so many opportunities for businesses. I mean, I go to places, and I, might go into a restroom, and they say that they can't make, their restroom isn't wheelchair accessible. But then I'll go in there and I'll see multiple stalls. And I'm like, well, you can combine like two of these stalls and just make one big one, and then have one big one and two small ones, or maybe just have one big one, and then people just have to wait. But people are definitely becoming more and more aware of this, and people want to travel and see the world so much. And even with COVID-19, I mean, that's going to temporarily slow things down, but that's not going to stop people. I'm literally checking every day what countries, can we go to or not go to. I mean, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready, and I know I'm not alone. I'm definitely not going to be disrespectful or, trying to cause the virus to spread by all means. Like to be super, super clean and not go into very tight knit quarters with people. So I haven't really gone to, when I've dined out, I've only gone to places where you dine outside. So they definitely, have lots of good open seating and space, which I think is definitely the key, going forward, post this whole virus stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's ways to still travel and be safe. And yes, maybe your hotel room won't be cleaned every single day, and your bed won't be made every single day, but that's okay. That's okay with me. If you still get to travel to a place, see something, I'd rather everybody be safe, happy, and healthy than, causing illness. But I still believe, in my own personal opinion, that we can't just like completely stay locked down and shut down for eternity. I mean, that's not human life. That's not why we're here, and that's not the way of the world. So we just have to keep going, and however that's going to look, I'm going to keep traveling.
When was the most difficult situation you have been through after the accident?
The most difficult situation. I mean, I've definitely run into difficult situations in terms of parking and restrooms. Where the idea that comes to my mind right now is restrooms for the first part, because when I travel to other countries, and if they have handicap accessible restrooms, most of the time, and there's no absolutes for anything, but by far most of the time, when I have traveled to other countries, people don't use the handicap restrooms unless they're handicapped and need that restroom. Of course, that's not every single situation, like every single day, you know, whatnot. But in general, I've strongly have experienced this where people don't do that. But in the United States, that is just not an issue. That is not handled the same manner whatsoever. There could be a whole room of open stalls. There could be 20 open stalls, and the person will just, you know, gun it to that handicap bathroom at the very end because they want, you know, the biggest space for, you know, whatever reason. Maybe they're bigger, maybe maybe they have luggage with them. But honestly, a lot of the time, that's not even the case. It's every shape and size and weight and nationality and ethnicity and social class. I mean, all of them do that. And sometimes I can literally be almost on their heels, like right behind them in line, you know, and we're both going into the bathroom at the same exact time. And for some reason, you know, they ignore me. I'm like, I know you can hear the wheels right behind you going over the tile unless you're completely oblivious. But I mean, when there's people standing around you, you kind of have a sense that there are people around you. And so it cracks me up again when I go into a bathroom at the same time as somebody else, and somebody is really just booking it, trying to race me to get to that handicapped bathroom. And I have to tap them on a shoulder or kind of, you know, speak up and say, hey, excuse me, miss, you know, do you mind if I use that bathroom? And may you please choose from one of the other 20 stalls that you can get into? So I would definitely say that having access to availability of bathrooms in America has been extremely frustrating. But again, that's something that I can also still adjust to and still adapt to. They are still available. So I can still make it work. It's just not, you know, it's not just like a very nice experience, you know, especially if you really have to go and this person ahead of you jumps ahead and they want to, you know, maybe not be so quick. They just want to take their sweet time and get their newspaper out and just, you know, really have a nice reading sesh while they do their business and not care about who's waiting for them. So that's in America, but in general, I would say for the rest of the world, I mean, there are handicap bathrooms in other countries, but there's still a lot of countries that don't have that available in public spaces. So there are a plethora of countries in South America, for example, that I'm dying to go visit, but it hasn't worked out because some of the countries don't have accessible bathrooms. So I would have to travel with somebody who could pick me up each time and like put me on a toilet. So that has been kind of restrictive on where I can and cannot go to some degree. So I feel like when I travel to different countries, I mean, I'll adapt. If I really want to go somewhere, I will, you know, I'll shower on a toilet if it's possible. If there's no seats, you know, and that's the only seat available, I will make that possible. You know, I will definitely make it possible. But there are some basic needs, some basic human needs, like using the restroom. And I think the rest of society would like it if I showered every once in a while. That would be nice for everybody, including myself. So, I mean, I need to have access to some of these basic things. So if I'm out and about, you know, let's say visiting the pyramids in Egypt, I need to be able, you know, not every hour, every 2 hours, but, you know, within reason, I need to be able to have access to an accessible bathroom. So I would really love to see that more around the world, having a more universally accessible bathroom. We don't even have to call it accessible. Let's just throw that word out. Let's just call it, you know, it's universal for everybody. Everybody can use this restroom. That would be the most ideal thing for me to see, because when that opens up, I mean, I can go anywhere, which would be fantastic. Yeah, there's even places in India that I would love to go to India, but that's also a big fear factor as well, where, okay, so there's like 3 accessible bathrooms in all of India. I'm exaggerating, but it's very, 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 very few and far between. And that's just problematic. That's just problematic. And you would have to plan your day so very specifically. And the way the routes are set up right now is just not conducive. If myself personally, if I could stand a tiny little bit or walk a tiny little bit, you know, that would be a game changer, but I can't. I would actually have to sit down and sit on a toilet. So I can't do the whole squatting thing when people travel. So I need to have a clean area for myself. So that's just something that is a really big issue. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I would say that is the biggest issue around the world, because I mean, I will, of course, general access, you know, being able to get into places is wonderful, but you know, there are tour companies that can make things more adaptable. You know, they have ramps that they'll bring, and that's what I would do. Of course, I would love to encourage every business to think about this in general and to not just rely on another company, a tour company, to make it accessible. Just get 2 pieces of wood, put them together, boom, there's your ramp. Doesn't take that much work. And it opens up the world a lot to people on, you know, a personal level, a spiritual level, and, you know, cultural level, which definitely penetrates the soul more than our human minds can fathom.
Okay, my other question is, when did you realize that you are still blessed?
When did I realize that I was still blessed? I would say towards the end of my senior year of high school. So I would say like the first 2 years were pretty difficult, like adjustment and whatnot. But then after I got into my university, I realized, so I got into this university based on also my academia, but then also my athletic ability prior to my injury. So the scholarship that I got was called Swim with Mike. It was a guy who was swimming for USC, and he was injured, had a spinal cord injury, paralyzed, and his friends wanted to raise money to buy him a van. So they decided to do a swimathon. And they raised so much money during that swimathon that they decided just to keep it going every single year. So now it's called the Swim with Mike Scholarship. So people who were, you know, varsity, you know, college grade athletes, and then were paralyzed, had a spinal cord injury, and still were able to graduate, you know, with honors and, you know, persevered kind of through, they would reward you with a scholarship. And you had to like have letters from teachers, you know, and prove a bunch of stuff and so on. And so because of that, I got, you know, a full ride scholarship. And that's when I, you know, that was kind of a first seed that was planted. I'm like, oh wow, like my books, my tuition, my housing, they give me a check each month for food. I mean, that was beyond what I could have hoped for. I mean, I was, like I said, I was really pushing very hard to get this basketball scholarship at Stanford. When I was growing up, my family wasn't in the best financial means. We had my parents had 3 daughters, and so you know, there was some savings, but I knew that I still had to get, you know, financial aid, and I might have to get a student loan that I would have to pay back eventually. So it really was my thought to, you know, get a scholarship. So after I became paralyzed, I was devastated. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now with my life? How am I going to go to school? You know, I was okay smart, but I definitely wasn't, you know, top of my class or even nearly the top of my class, super smart. And so I'm like, okay, I guess I just have to work harder in my academics and get my GPA super high up there and see if I can get a scholarship otherwise. At the time, I didn't know about the scholarship that I did receive. I just knew, okay, I just have to try something else. I have to go the academia route instead of the sports route. And so I felt so incredibly blessed, just absolutely thrilled that I received this scholarship. And then yeah, and then I feel like it just almost kind of snowballed, where there would be setbacks, with my disability life, where I'm like, oh, I want to go over to this friend's house in college, but oh, they have stairs, so then somebody had to come out and pick me up and get the wheelchair in and do this whole process instead of me just popping in there real quick as I would like to do. But as it kept snowballing, there was some setbacks, but then there were also some highlights that were revealed to me. Like, I would go to museums or restaurants that maybe not be 100% accessible, and I would be invited to go through the back entrance or see things that the rest of the public didn't really get to see, which I thought was really cool, because I got to see a lot of kind of behind the scenes back end things, which was a lot of fun. And I just thought, oh yeah, this is an interesting new perspective. And after I graduated and I started to have more opportunities in traveling and just seeing, you know after I graduated college, I was really just trying to have a regular job, and do the whole normal thing, and I was planning events and whatnot, and I wasn't really involved in the disabled community at all whatsoever. Support groups or anything, I wasn't involved in that at all, because I'm like, oh well, you know that's them and this is me, and I'm friends with it, like I'm friends with everybody. But that was kind of a detriment, because I closed myself off from a lot of really cool people that were doing amazing things. And it was only after like a couple years after I started the website that I really started getting more and more involved in the disabled community with sports groups and going to different events. And my mind was just blown, not even just from the connections that I got with people and the empowerment that I received, but just seeing so many more opportunities that I didn't know existed. And from that on, once I started wheelchair traveling and I started to see all of these companies and these people and all of these magical things happening, I couldn't turn the magic off. And I just felt so blessed every single day to be able to explore and uncover some of these gems that I basically was discovering in these different countries in my own backyard, on how people were doing things. And oh my goodness, I can go sailing and I can go scuba diving and I can go skydiving. And there's a guy in New Zealand who's a quadriplegic, but he goes paragliding on his own. Nobody even helps him. He can't even use his arms on his own, but he can fly paragliding. And just all of these little things just started lighting up on me, and I'm like, wow, well what's that going to be like? And I found that seeing the world through my perspective through these wheels became an absolute gift, where it became so much more interesting. My life became so much more interesting. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, I'm going to the grocery store. Oh yeah, I'm going to a friend's house, or going to this one place that I've been a million times. Everywhere that I would go, everything that I would do would be an adventure. I would have to, adapt in some ways, or I would never really know exactly what I would be getting into sometimes. And it was just thrilling for me to be able to explore life, do things that you or anybody else would do in a very average way. Oh, I'm going to the grocery store. Well, that to me became like a new adventure. Like each time that I would do it slightly different. Something slightly different would happen. And I was just learning like what worked for me, what worked for other people. And yeah, and like to this day, yes, I mean, there's just endless possibilities that exist out there, and it's just exciting. It's exciting to be a part of. It's exciting to share all of it. And the more I feel like I share, the more things are being creative, the more opportunities are being laid out for people, the more people are waking up and saying, oh, I want that person like to come into my business, and like, because we all want to live. We go skydiving. We want to fish. We go dancing at clubs. I'm a very good dancer. We go dancing at clubs. We live just like everybody else. I just can't walk. I'm just not doing it standing up. And so that has been a blessing. I mean, I wouldn't have changed what I have learned from the experiences that I have, the people that I've encountered, just the kindness of strangers, you know, how I've been able to overcome obstacles and seen myself grow physically, spiritually, and mentally. I mean, you just can't, I couldn't have asked for any other life. I mean, this life was 100% destined to be mine. It was designed that way.
Awesome. What kind of activities do you usually do?
I love to go hiking. I'm a big hiker. Love to go hiking. I'll go hiking in my manual chair and my power chair, just depending on the trail and kind of how I'm feeling that day and what I'm doing. But I love being out in nature. Hiking is a big activity for me. I also love to paint. I'm a big painter. Love to do oil painting, constantly painting, really have multiple projects going on with that. And I love to write. I mean, I love to write for the website, and I've been doing all sorts of guides and videos and stuff like that, which definitely fuels my creativity. But I'm also writing a screenplay, and I'm trying to write a book, and I'm writing poems. Words are just constantly coming to me. A lot of the time, maybe they're not that interesting, but the words that really, you know, shine and stick to me, they're like, "Ooh, yeah, that's a really beautiful phrase," or "That's something really interesting to kind of think about." I'll save it, I'll put it in my notebook, and maybe there might be words that will flow after that, or maybe not. Maybe I'll just put down the one phrase that I'll think of, and then I'll come back to it a couple days later or a week later, you know, and I'll look at it again, and maybe something else fresh will start triggering, you know, from that phrase, and I'll write from that, and it will just keep growing and growing and growing and growing. Because yeah, the thing about writing is, sure, I mean, you can, you know, when the muse, so to speak, is with you, and you can sit down and write it all down once, and that's fantastic. And sometimes it does come like that, but sometimes the muse likes to come to us in just little phrases or little ideas. And it's very important for us to, as writers, write down those little phrases. It may not seem very important at the time, or you may not know the significance of it, but write it down, because, you know, a week later, a month later, a couple years later, you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, that is the perfect phrase that I've been looking for to describe, you know, this relationship with like so-and-so in my book," or, you know, what have you. So it's a fun creative process that's never ever ending. That's sometimes a little madness, but it's organized madness.
Great. Can we see an example from your painting?
Oh yeah. Let me grab something. Hold on.
Yeah.
They're actually all not accessible to me at the moment. They're my boyfriend put them against the back wall, and I can't reach them, but I can send you pictures of them afterwards if you wanted to kind of flash them in the story. But
can you move this screen towards the pictures?
Yeah, let me try to do that. So I have so many of my paintings that I've done over the years. Oh wait, sorry, you can't hear me.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Now I can't hear you.
Okay. So many of the paintings that I've done over the years, the majority of them I have given them to other people as gifts. So, and those are usually like my bright, colorful, you know, scenic paintings of like Australia or a beautiful covered bridge or whatnot. So I've been kind of exploring with some like emotional type paintings. So we're gonna go on a little trip here.
Okay.
Well, this one is a little this is basically like symbolizes your chakras opening on both sides, your rainbow chakras being open on both sides. But I'm not done with that one. And the key phrase from that one is, "I am that I am," which basically means that we're everything. Like there's no separation between any of us. I think in the Bible, or I'm not sure exactly where this phrase came from, but I think it was the Bible or some very religious type scenario, that it would say, I am that. I am. And that for such a long period of time, people were thinking that, oh yes, God was saying like, yes, or Jesus was saying like, I am that, I am God. But a lot of new interpretation of that has been basically saying like, no, I don't think that's what Jesus was saying. Jesus was saying, I am that. I am everything. I am the prostitute. I am the dirt on the ground. I am the sun shining. I am all these objects that you are seeing around you. Okay, and then, so I don't know if you can see some of these up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have some of like New York and some parts I'm doing some like 3D type stuff. And then I'm also doing this 3D piece down here, which is made up of rocks from the Southwest, which is going to be this like beautiful mosaic type piece. Oh yeah, and then I also have these paintings up here. This one on the top basically deals with our assumptions, which I think is a problem in this world, that we assume things before they're even actually given truth or validity, and they're based on numbers, which are basically just, you know, symbols for objects. And you can like talk about it from a very scientific point of view, where if you break it down from like an atom perspective, there's more space than there is stuff, you know, in this world. So when we make assumptions, we're basically setting up a probability that maybe doesn't even exist. It could be a good one, it could be a bad one. So I just feel like, you know, assumptions, you can even bring it back to people who are in wheelchairs, you know, don't assume that I can't go on this trail. Don't assume that I can do this or I can't do that. You know, it's always good to ask and, you know, to gain clarity. Don't just assume that people, you know, don't know what you're talking about. Don't assume that people aren't intelligent enough to go there or can't handle the message or whatnot. It's like, don't assume anything. Don't assume, well, I can get real political right now, but yeah, just don't make any assumptions. And then the painting that I have below it, I'm not very good navigating this. Here we go. The painting that I have below it has lots of meanings as well. And basically, it's a woman and a man. It's supposed to represent kind of like a universal figure for a human being. So on the heart, the person is wearing has a circle and a triangle to symbolize the unity of the male and female spirits. And then the person is also holding the Egyptian scale of the heart and the feather, you know, weighing that. And then the person is breathing in and breathing out butterflies, which is a symbol for metamorphosis and evolution and changing of our spiritual self. And in the picture as well, the person's also holding a key, which symbolizes, you know, the key to life and evolution. And then there's a third eye reference as well, and sacred geometry is also referenced in this painting. And then there's also a lot of keys. There's I've written some things in Sanskrit, some ancient texts that was really beautiful, and then just really important numbers. You know, like the number of pi, the number for sacred geometry. Like the math equation for matter and black holes and things of that nature. So I kind of wanted to do paintings that reflect a really great truth that the truth that we all know and live by as human beings, and kind of what we want, and, you know, the love and connection between all of us, and how we like to ascend and be connected and be in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not describing it super eloquently, but if you gave me time, and I know I have, you know, lots of poems that more eloquently talk about what my paintings are.
Could you recite one short poem?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me pull one up.
Okay.
Okay. This is called 21st Century Lessons. Here's the truth, kids, so listen up. First things first, know when to shut up. The world doesn't revolve around you, despite what you've been told. A part of us never grows up, even when we're old. People leave for no and all reasons. It's a changing of the season. People leave for no and all reasons. It's a changing of the season. Seeing what's wrong only makes things worse. Positivity makes progression burst. Your health is in your hands. There's no one to blame where you stand. We are all on unique journeys, making judgment and worry a waste. Probability can derail or shift your pace. Follow your interests and nurture your skills. Mind over matter means the heart can fulfill. Balance emotions to manage depression and anxiety. Where you are is where you're supposed to be. Live not to destroy life. Don't use people just for spite. There's nothing to fight over. There's nothing to really be won. Don't wait for another to do what really needs to be done. Don't leave your trash behind. Don't carry your baggage around. What's up could be right, and what's left could be down. Life and death are endless work. Honor and respect Mother Earth. Okay, that's one. Didn't really like that one. Well, here's a good, oh, this is a good one to read for, for the interview, because I wrote this when I was 15. Where'd it go now? So I'll read you two that I wrote when I was 15 after my accident, because I think it kind of goes along with the interview and stuff. This one is called My Father's Advice. Hold your head up no matter what the cost. Brush your teeth and don't forget to floss. Don't judge others on what they wear, but on what they say and if they care. Learn to respect yourself and your friends will follow. Chew your food with your mouth closed and swallow. Remember to love and forget to hate. Understand to want and what it is to wait. Take time to listen to others, but realize what you say. Do everything you can do in a single day. Watch a snail and find out where it goes. You may find out something you didn't know. Your heart can get broken if you don't let it. Life is precious. Never quit it. Live life the way you always wanted to. Do whatever makes you happy and never feel blue. Smile once in a while, even though it hurts. Plant a golden flower in a pile of dirt. If eyes are the window to the soul, then look up. Don't drink from the milk carton. Get a cup. Take a deep breath and a good look around. Sometimes silence is the perfect sound. Make each tomorrow the best it can be. Open your eyes and maybe then you can see. Overcome jealousy, learn to forgive. God loves you and there's a reason you live.
Wow, that's great.
That was one. Save your own soul. You're your own superhero. No one can make you whole or dig you out of that hole. Completion starts and ends at zero. Don't bother to scroll. Endless searching takes its toll. You're the smoking pistol, the gateway to the infinite wormhole, the big fish in the bowl, with no agenda to control, so don't slow your roll. Get out and take a stroll. Live with your heart, a full bankroll. Live in that loophole, the journey of the soul. And this next one is called Seeing and Experience Infinity. It's not what you look at, it's what you see, said Henry David Thoreau. This is all there really is. This is all you can really know. From this, your soul will glow and your humanity will grow. What's observed cannot be deceived or not properly conceived. Countlessly adapting to relieve the pain we receive as if needed for life to succeed and unweave wholeheartedly. You can be cautious or wear your heart on your sleeve, but obstacles will find you. That's the world. That's how the world can be. You cannot escape everything. Matters are no sure thing, since they keep moving and accidentally happenings are constantly occurring. Focus fully on destiny, like it's always New Year's Eve, with enthusiasm and intrigue and awareness of possibilities, and continuous flow of serendipity working harmoniously. The eternal cannot be achieved completely rationally. That's naive. Its true nature is best perceived, that which intuitively believes the vastness of infinity. I feel some of these are better when they're actually read by the person, because I'm stumbling a little bit, but they're still okay.
What else would you like to say?
I would like to tell everybody that, one, just to not give up on life, whatever it hands you, whether you lose a parent or a child, a brother, a sister, a friend, your ability to walk, your ability to talk, your ability to see. There's a reason why we're here. There's a reason why we're here at this time. Our soul needs us to be here and experience it. It's good also not to, if we encounter such obstacles, to give yourself patience. Give yourself patience and give everybody around you patience in order to adapt to it, because everybody is adjusting to this new circumstance. So, maybe somebody's frustrated one day, maybe somebody's sad one day. Just let them feel what they need to feel. And that's the same truth for you. If you're frustrated or if you're sad one day, that's okay. Give yourself time to feel that and be okay with that and release it. Move on. Keep going. Keep swimming. There are so many things that I've encountered in my life after my accident. So many obstacles, physical pain, mental pain, wanting to give up. But I knew how important it is just to keep going. And I know my journey isn't over yet. I'm still young. I have all sorts of medical issues that, look forward to me in the future. And who knows what's going to happen. But I know, just keep breathing. Whatever you can do, there's something to be appreciative every single day. There were times that I would be laying in the hospital, not even able to sit up in bed, not even able to sit up in bed to take a sip of water or take a pill or anything. I was literally just having to lay flat in bed. And all I could do was just to look out of the window and see one tree and just watch one tree. And I was so grateful for that tree. There are so many tiny things in this world that really, to me, are the secret of life. The secret of life is not all these big things that these big extravagant things in our head and our plans, what we concoct and whatnot. And yes, it's great to accomplish things and, make a change and all of that. But at the end of the day, what truly makes you happy are these little tiny things, that person on the street that helped you or said hello to you, or, the phone call from a friend that you hadn't heard from a while, or maybe it was just you know, a hot meal. There were times laying in the hospital where literally the one thing that I would look forward to in my day would be a warm washcloth. And I would soak in that moment. I would just really appreciate and I would honor that warm washcloth. And I would be so grateful for that washcloth. And my point is that if you're upset or if you're frustrated or if you feel like you're in a negative space, which is okay, that's okay. This is life. And sometimes, you know, it's part of life. We have to, you know the negative in order to see, you know, what's positive for us as well, what we really like. But if you're in that negative space, just focus on that one good thing. And if you just focus on one good thing, that turns into another good thing that you then notice. And that turns into another wonderful small thing that you notice. And sure enough, by the time, you know, you don't even realize it. And then all of a sudden you're just surrounded by all of these tiny, wonderful, good things that maybe you took for granted, you know, a few months ago that you didn't even realize. You didn't really appreciate how wonderful it was to have air conditioning in your house. But you're like, you know what? It is so hot outside and I am so grateful to come inside of my house and to cool down and feel my body calm down and just to have that relief. Really connect to what your mind and your body are saying to you and the feelings that you're having. Because yes, like I said, it's okay to be upset and to be frustrated with, you know, your mom or your neighbor or what's going on in the world, but that's not all there is. That's not all there is. And there's just way more good in this world and love and peace and understanding. And even though, you know, Darwin, you know, Darwinism and whatnot I don't know when this happened, but everybody just started focusing on, you know, the competition aspect of what Darwin, you know, discovered about all of his exploration, like, oh yes, survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest. That was not the majority of his book. The majority of his studies, of his findings was that creatures, even if they are not in the same species, or there's a tree and a bug or a tree and a bird, the relationship between all of us is so much greater. Our ability to have compassion and empathy and get along and work together in order to coexist for the better is so much greater and so much more magical than this whole competition aspect that, you know, has been pushed for many, 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 many decades. So we as a society really need to start seeing not what, you know, how we're different from one another. Don't focus on that, but focus on how are we the same? What makes us the same? What overlaps? How can we work together? How can we make this work? No matter how difficult that seems to be, that is what has to be done in order for all of us on this planet to have a better life, and to evolve and to be more compassionate and to know that everybody is taken care of. If we start just looking out for one another more so, that love and compassion that we give to other people and then we give to the world, that is going to be a direct reflection of then our own lives. The law of attraction proves, you know, what you put out is what you attract. So if you want a loving, compassionate world that, you know, you see people helping out one another, then do that. You need to be giving that as well. Or maybe you're not seeing that. Maybe you're not seeing in that world. Then you plant that seed. You be the first person to start that ripple. You throw that rock into the pond and you start that ripple, because once it grows, it keeps growing. But you have to know that it's there, and that even though sometimes people get frustrated and, you know, there's might be anger in the world, there is more love and compassion and understanding than anger and hate. And I wholeheartedly believe that, have experienced that on so many levels, and will die by that.
It has been more than great, more than interesting, more than really fascinating talking to you, Ashley. Thank you so much for your time, for your input, for your ideas. You're a great role model for all of us.
Thank you very much. And I mean, we're all role models for each other. We all inspire each other every single day. So let's just keep inspiring each other, encouraging each other, and raising each other up. That's what I say.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.